A lot of people have some bottled water stored away for emergencies, and that's definitely better than nothing. The problem starts when a short outage turns into several days, or when water is needed for more than just drinking. Cooking, hygiene, pets, hot weather, and even simple cleaning tasks can make stored supplies disappear much faster than expected. Water systems also rely on more infrastructure than many people realize. Power outages, storms, frozen pipes, contamination incidents, and other disruptions can all affect access to safe drinking water, even during smaller emergencies. Stores often sell out quickly once people realize there might be a problem. In this video, we're going to look at practical water storage for preppers, including how much water you really need, the best storage methods for different situations, purification options, common mistakes, and ways to improve long-term water security without turning your house into a bunker full of barrels. Welcome to Prepper's Paradigm, your channel dedicated to practical prepping and disaster preparedness. I use a computer-generated voice because my own is difficult to understand due to an injury. Whether you live in an apartment, a suburban home, or a rural property, having a realistic water plan can make a huge difference during emergencies both large and small. Some people focus heavily on food storage while treating water as an afterthought, but in many situations, water becomes the more immediate problem. Today, we'll cover everything from bottled water and stackable containers to rainwater harvesting, filters, off-grid systems, and the mistakes that can quietly leave gaps in your preparedness plan. Water is one of the few supplies that affects almost every part of daily life. People need it for drinking, cooking, hygiene, cleaning, sanitation, medical care, and looking after pets or livestock. During emergencies, even small disruptions to the water supply can create problems surprisingly quickly. Many people assume that water will continue flowing from the tap during most situations, but modern water systems depend on a huge amount of infrastructure working properly behind the scenes. Treatment plants need electricity, pumps need power, pipes need maintenance, and chemicals still need to be delivered to keep water safe to drink. We've already seen examples of this in real disasters. Hurricanes have left communities without clean water for days or weeks. Winter storms have frozen pipes and damaged treatment systems. Flooding has contaminated wells and reservoirs, while boil water notices have affected towns and cities across the United States. Some problems don't even require a major disaster. A burst water main, a contamination issue, or a prolonged power outage can all interrupt access to safe drinking water with very little warning. Once that happens, stores often sell out quickly as people rush to buy bottled water and supplies. Long-term emergencies create even bigger challenges. During grid failures or widespread infrastructure problems, municipal systems may struggle to continue operating normally. Fuel shortages, damaged infrastructure, staffing problems, and supply chain issues can all affect water treatment and distribution. That doesn't mean everyone needs thousands of gallons stored underground, but it does mean that having a realistic water plan matters. Even a modest emergency water supply can remove a huge amount of stress during short-term emergencies, while layered systems, such as filtration and rainwater harvesting, can provide much better long-term resilience. One of the most common problems with emergency water storage is simply not storing enough. Many preparedness guides recommend 1 gallon of water per person per day, and while that's a useful starting point, it's really more of a minimum survival amount than a comfortable or realistic target. Drinking water is only part of the equation. Water is also needed for cooking, washing hands, basic hygiene, cleaning dishes, making drinks, and looking after pets. Hot weather or physical activity can increase water use even further, especially during stressful situations where people may already be dehydrated. A family can go through stored water surprisingly quickly once those extra needs are included. Even simple tasks like rinsing cookware or washing up after meals can use more water than people expect. During longer emergencies, hygiene becomes important too. Poor sanitation can create health problems very quickly if people are unable to wash properly or keep living areas clean. Pets and livestock also need to be part of the calculation. Dogs, cats, chickens, rabbits, goats, and other animals all require reliable access to water during emergencies, yet many preparedness plans only focus on human needs. Storage space can also affect planning. Apartment dwellers may need to focus more on portable containers and stackable water bricks, while people with garages, basements, sheds, or rural properties may have room for larger systems like drums or IBC totes. For shorter emergencies, many people aim for at least 1 to 2 weeks of water storage. Longer-term preparedness usually relies on combining stored water with purification methods and renewable sources, such as rainwater harvesting. On the Prepper's Paradigm website, there's also a Prepper water calculator that can help estimate how much water may realistically be needed based on household size and preparedness goals. There's a link in the video description. There's no single perfect way to store water for emergencies. Different storage methods work better for different homes, budgets, climates, and preparedness goals. Many experienced preppers use several systems together, so they have both short-term convenience and longer-term capacity. Bottled water remains one of the simplest options. It's easy to buy, easy to store, and works well for short-term emergencies or evacuation situations. Smaller bottles are portable and convenient, especially for vehicles or grab-and-go kits. The downside is that bottled water takes up a lot of space, creates more waste, and becomes expensive if you're trying to build large long-term reserves. Stackable water breaks have become very popular with preppers because they make much better use of space. They're easier to organize in large drums, easier to rotate, and much easier to move if necessary. Apartment dwellers and suburban households often find them more practical than trying to store huge containers in one location. Portable water containers also work well for bugging in and evacuation scenarios. Heavy-duty jugs and collapsible containers can be transported in vehicles or used to collect water from outside sources if needed during longer emergencies. For larger-scale storage, many people use 55-gallon water drums. A single drum stores a substantial amount of water in a relatively compact space, making them useful for garages, sheds, and basements. The main drawback is weight. Once filled, a drum becomes extremely difficult to move, so placement matters from the start. IBC totes take large-scale storage even further. These containers can hold hundreds of gallons and are popular on rural properties and homesteads. They work especially well alongside rainwater harvesting systems or backup filtration setups, although they require much more space and careful planning. Some people also use bathtub storage systems before storms or expected outages. Emergency bathtub liners can temporarily store a large amount of water while helping keep it cleaner than simply filling the tub directly. Whatever storage method you choose, food-grade containers matter. Unsafe plastics or old chemical containers can contaminate drinking water over time, which defeats the entire purpose of storing it in the first place. A lot of water storage problems don't come from having no supplies at all. They come from small mistakes that only become obvious once an emergency is already underway. Some of these problems are easy to fix now, but much harder to deal with when clean water becomes difficult to get. One of the biggest mistakes is underestimating how much water is actually needed. A few cases of bottled water may seem like a decent supply at first, but once drinking, cooking, hygiene, cleaning, and pets are included, those supplies can disappear quickly. Another common issue is relying entirely on a single storage method. If all your water is stored in one large container, and that container becomes damaged or contaminated, you suddenly lose a huge amount of your emergency supply at once. Layered storage works much better because it spreads the risk across different systems and locations. Poor storage conditions can also create problems over time. Heat and direct sunlight can damage plastic containers and encourage algae growth, while freezing temperatures can crack containers and split fittings. Garages may work well in some climates, but extreme temperatures make regular inspections more important. Unsafe containers are another major problem. Fuel cans, chemical containers, and non-food safe plastic should never be used for drinking water storage. Even if they appear clean, residues can remain behind and contaminate stored water. Some people also focus entirely on storage while ignoring purification. Stored water is important, but eventually supplies run low during longer emergencies. Filters, boiling equipment, chemical treatment, and backup purification methods provide much better long-term resilience. Water rotation often gets neglected as well. Containers can crack, seals can fail, and stored water may develop contamination issues over time if it's simply forgotten in the corner of a garage for years. Labeling containers with dates and rotating supplies gradually through normal household use helps keep everything manageable. Another mistake involves forgetting about hygiene water completely. Drinking water matters most, but poor sanitation can quickly create health problems during longer disruptions. Having separate water supplies for cleaning, washing, or flushing toilets can help preserve treated drinking water for consumption. Good preparedness usually comes from practical, layered planning rather than trying to find one perfect solution that covers every situation. One of the best ways to improve water preparedness is to stop thinking in terms of a single solution. Real emergencies are unpredictable, and different situations create different challenges. A setup that works well during a short storm outage may not work nearly as well during a long-term grid failure or major infrastructure disruption. That's why layered preparedness matters so much. The first layer is usually short-term storage. Bottled water, stackable containers, and portable jugs provide immediate access to clean water during sudden emergencies. These supplies help cover the first few days when stores may be crowded and infrastructure problems are still developing. The second layer involves purification and collection. Filters, boiling equipment, chemical treatment, and rainwater harvesting allow additional water to be used safely once stored supplies begin running lower. This greatly extends the usefulness of existing reserves during longer disruptions. Redundancy matters within each layer as well. Filters wear out, containers leak, pumps fail, and weather conditions change. Backup options reduce the chances of one problem turning into a complete loss of water access. A layered approach also makes preparedness more manageable financially. Instead of trying to build a massive system all at once, people can improve gradually over time. A few containers today can eventually grow into a much more complete setup with filtration, rainwater collection, and backup systems later on. Preparedness doesn't need to look extreme to be effective. Even relatively modest improvements can make a huge difference during real emergencies, especially when they're playing realistically around your home, climate, budget, and likely risks. Water preparedness is one of the foundations of practical prepping. Short-term outages, storms, infrastructure failures, contamination incidents, and long-term emergencies can all affect access to clean water far faster than many people expect. A realistic water plan helps reduce stress and gives you more flexibility during difficult situations. Instead of rushing to crowded stores or relying entirely on outside systems, you already have supplies and backup options available at home. The good news is that improving water preparedness doesn't require turning your house into a bunker or spending huge amounts of money overnight. Many people start with a few extra containers, a basic filter, or a simple rainwater collection setup, then gradually build from there over time. The important thing is to think beyond just a few cases of bottled water. Storage, purification, collection, transportation, and redundancy all play a role in long-term resilience. I'd be interested to hear what your own water setup looks like, especially if you found practical storage or filtration solutions that work well in apartments, suburban homes, or off-grid properties. Let me know in the comments. If you found this video useful, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the Prepper Water Calculator on the Prepper's Paradigm website. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay prepared.